Never before in history have there been so many people on Earth as right now. Every day we add 227,000 more people to the planet. It is predicted that the human population will surpass 11 billion by the end of the century. Our planet can sustain such a thing. In some countries, forced sterilization has been used as a method to control population growth, and the outcome has been very successful. But is this the ethically and morally correct way? Today, let's talk about forced sterilization. Is it the right solution, and about all the choices that we have? Let's look at some facts. In 1950, 5 years after the founding of the United Nations, the world population was estimated at around 2.6 billion people. In October of 2011, the global population was estimated to be 7 billion. This dramatic growth has been driven largely by increasing numbers of people surviving to reproductive age, and has been accompanied by major change in fertility rate, increasing urbanization, and accelerating migration. We can see that things need to be done before the Earth resource is tapped out. Some country has chosen forced sterilization to be the go-to method. So what exactly is it? A government mandate program to involuntarily sterilize a specific group of people. Compulsory sterilization removes a person's capacity to reproduce, usually through surgical procedure. Several countries implement sterilization programs in the early 20th century. Although such programs have been made illegal in most countries in the world, instead of forced or coerced sterilization persists, despite being banned for various human rights violations in many countries. The success it had in population growth control has been very effective. Prime example of Bangladesh, Brazil, and India, where this practice has been mostly on poor men and women. That's why it leaves us a very big question. Should we allow human rights violation in order to control human population growth? Our answer is no.
Now, we will move to some arguments explain why forced sterilization is not an appropriate solution for a population that is rapidly dwindling. There are many variables standing behind this option. But first, we will identify human rights and how they are violated when forced sterilization is applied. In general, human rights are the basic rights and freedom that belong to every person in the world, from birth until death, regardless of where you're from, what you believe, or how you choose to live your life. In such instances, sterilization appears to be a serious violation of human reproductive rights, which are a set of human rights that relate to sexual and reproductive health. Reproductive rights can be classified into three categories: rights to reproductive self-determination, rights to sexual and reproductive health services, information and education. Finally, rights to equality and non-discrimination. However, compulsory sterilization did not follow the previous rights. Some people who wanted fertility were sterilized without their knowledge or agreement, while others who chose to limit their family size were denied sterilization. Furthermore, when conducted without informed permission, sterilization preaches an individual right to dignity, human treatment, health, family, information, privacy, and the freedom to choose the number and spacing of children, among other things.
Many cases of forced sterilization have been recorded throughout history around the world. According to statistics, women, the LGBT community, and the disabled are the three most common victims of this tragedy. To begin with women, between 1996 and 2000, under the administration of Alberto Fujimori, under 200,000 sterilizations were performed in Peru. Poor and often illiterate women from the Quechua and Aymara, indigenous ethnic groups were the majority of the victims. In October 1998, 60 Minutes broadcast a television report on the American medical establishment, revealing how Queen Marine, a medicine that permanently sterilized women, were implanted on the uteri of over 100,000 women at the initial service of 2 U.S. doctors without any testing for adverse effects. The physicians agreed that they were performing a social duty for the country by tackling the third world population expansion issue.
Finally, the disabled are the ones who are subject to this terrible abuse. It is thought that those who are born with a handicap will have an atypical child. As an outcome, they are not allowed to reproduce and are sterilized because they are ill. Many disabled people, both those who want to have children and those who do not want to have children, can make a decision on their own.
As forced sterilization is a contraceptive procedure which is surgically intervened, it raises certain concerns. The victim's physical health is considered to be injured the most as a result of this method. Coerced sterilization is done involuntarily and compulsorily, notwithstanding the risk it can pose, notably to women. Despite the fact that sterilization can be performed on both men and women, it is more dangerous for women. Sterilization is a permanent approach of contraception that prevents women from having children. Some tubal ligations result in spontaneous birth control failure after sterilization. At that time, the risk of an ectopic pregnancy is very high, putting both the woman and the baby in danger. There are other severe physical health problems that are consequent of the sterilization can be mentioned. Having menstrual blood, severe abdominal discomfort, severe back pain, weakness, and lower limb difficulties are among symptoms. The symptoms began soon after the sterilization procedure and have continued to this day. In addition to the physical anguish that the victim is in, the loss of the ability to have a child or the right to make their own decisions may make them suffer a terrible time dealing with mental health issues. Some studies on the mental health of HIV positive women in South Africa found that most respondents reported ongoing and significant emotional distress because they can no longer bear children, with a few women even reporting clinical depression and the use of antidepressants, feelings of trauma, isolation, helplessness, and stress.
A significant question mark has been raised since this strategy was introduced, as we all know that women are the major target of compulsory sterilization. Does it mean that women are being treated unfairly and are in a low position in modern society at that time? Will they still be able to live a long life after being sterilized, or do they have to face the scrutiny of the family and society? Women living with HIV who were subjected to involuntary sterilization in South Africa stated that they were psychologically and physically harmed, as well as their relationship with partners, families, and the wider society. Broken marriages, reduced marriage possibilities, fear of losing relationships, discrimination, victimization, and gender-based violence are all the consequences of the inability to produce children. In patriarchal societies, where a woman's worth is determined by her capacity to carry children, the social-cultural implications of sterilization can be severe. Female sterilization violates decision-making structures and frequently results in gender-based violence. If a woman marries again after sterilization, her new husband may be dissatisfied with her inability to bear his children, resulting in marital strife. Besides the social problems, we have to deal with a bigger consequence of forced sterilization. Because this strategy regulates the population, it also limits the number of workers. This can lead to a direct negative impact on the country's economy. If the population continues to decline at this rate, the country will face an elderly population in the future. The number of retired seniors will thus account for a larger proportion of the entire population than those of working age. As a result, new economic concerns will emerge. Personal taxes will rise in order to earn enough money to compensate for those who must retire, replacing younger people in a financial bind.
Then we will discuss some feasible plan to deal with overpopulation. First and foremost, we must place a high priority on community awareness. Education on sex, sexuality, and pregnancy should be publicly available. As a result, both men and women will have a greater understanding of postpartum health and how to care for themselves and their children. Allow them to make the best decision possible. Educate individuals about family planning, include population growth and family planning into high school and college political and economic curriculum. The researcher Methodus Institute found that on average, uneducated men and women gave birth to almost 7 children. For better educated, the numbers were about 4. Education leads to lower birth rate and slow population growth, he says. This makes it easier for countries to develop. A more educated workforce also makes poverty eradication and economic growth easier to achieve.
Fertility may have a direct and immediate influence
when population education activities are connected to community engagement efforts. State and non-profit resources in India, for Maharashtra's Fund for Women's Development Plans for Women of Reproductive Age, which aim to influence fertility behavior and enhance the quality of life. The goal was to raise the population's knowledge and comprehension of socio-economic development, family health, family and community life, and civic obligations that benefit the individual, family, community, and society.
First, anywhere, always lady first. Women must have a right to decide everything, especially when it comes to motherhood. Paying attention to women's needs is undeniably one of the most effective ways to empower women. To begin, they have to be well informed about reproductive and contraceptive options. Besides, providing voluntary family planning tools and education, in addition to lowering maternal mortality, allows young women to avoid early pregnancy, allows more girls to stay in school longer, allows women to have fewer and healthier children, and helps break the intergenerational circle of poverty. It will also prevent HIV transmissions, encourage women to engage in community-based income-generating activities, and promote environmental sustainability. Secondly, child marriage must be addressed in developing nations. Rebecca Gyumi, a representative example from Tanzania, is likewise striving to eliminate child marriage. The lawyer and conventioner for girls' rights petitioned the government to end child marriage for girls under the age of 18 and was successful. She is aiming to set attitude in rural regions and inspire women to fight for their rights. She believes that girls should be in school at 14 and not be married up. Her work has received international acclaim, and she was given the United Nations Human Rights Prize in 2018. Thirdly, we need to enhance women's role in the modern society as much as possible. It implies they are no longer constrained by the outdated belief that a woman's whole life is spent giving birth to children and caring for her family. As a result, they can continue on the road of learning and to instill a variety of beneficial ideas in society. This not only aids in population reduction, but also advances societal development into new heights. Furthermore, encouraging gender equality is an excellent way to empower women.
Besides, the government needs to promote and develop family planning and one-child or two-child policy. The government can develop programs that provide assistance and counseling to families in order to help them plan better. Many countries have officials specifically for this matter, and the result is very positive. Educating children about this at an early age can also be beneficial in the long term. Alternatively, like in China in the late 2000s, the one-child policy is the most successful population control regulation. However, there are several objections to this, and it is extremely difficult to implement this in third world nations. Today, according to marriage and family law, couples determine whether or not to have children and how many children they will have. Many couples nowadays are more interested in think when they have a family. This is particularly logical given the present economic condition, which is exacerbated by COVID-19's detrimental impact. The slang expression means dual income, no kids, also known DINK, refer to a home with two incomes but no children. These couples often have more spare money since they do not have the additional expenditure that come with having children. Even before COVID-19 was translated, the cost of rearing a children was estimated to be over $200,000 US, according to the United States Department of Agriculture. These do not include expenditures paid after the children turn 18, such as college tuition. Additionally, the costs of food, clothing, and long-term education that come with having one or more children are avoided for these couples. This allows the pair to save money and put it towards something else. These couples are becoming more common. According to the most recent census Bureau data, the percentage of people living without children climbed by 90% from 1976 to 2016, rising from 52.5% to 71.3%.
Extending the marriage age decreases the number of kids born, while benefiting both men and women. The marriage age limit will lower the number of pregnancies. In Vietnam, for example, only men over the age of 21 and women over the age of 18 are able to marry. This law should be strictly enforced because being pregnant too soon has a significant impact on both the mother's and the baby's health, as well as the health of the entire society. The reason is that people under the age of 18 may not be mature enough to make informed decisions, and pregnancies occur more frequently, potentially leading to overpopulation. Next, taxation is one of the most effective ways of governments to limit the bad aspects of an issue while ensuring consistent growth. Congress should consider and adapt the child tax. Higher taxation for parents with more children is one of the methods that can be used to control the population. This method of population control ensures that taxpayers are entitled to an exemption for a specific number of children, mostly the first two, but no other. Finally, the situation in the least developed countries requires additional attention. One of the causes of fast population growth in third world nations is a shortage of food and a high mortality rate. So, by providing adequate meals for families and improved medical care, the demand for more births is eliminated. When combined with safe protection measures, we can drastically minimize the number of infants born.
Now, looking back at the beginning of this argument, we have assumed that human rights violations shouldn't be allowed to control human population growth. However, although the rate of population growth is slowing in almost all countries now, the global population is still increasing. As we know, population policy and family planning are applied to control the population growth, but there are some citizens who still don't follow the policies. Fines, slave rearrangement, and even forced sterilization have been used to trick those who violate these policies. Moreover, although less developed countries have poor economies, which means people's lives are very destitute, their population growth is 14 times higher than in more developed countries in 2013. So, why don't we use forced sterilization for poor parents who cannot afford food carrying and upbringing their children? Should this human right be taken away while people do not fulfill their obligation? The United States was an international leader in using this method. Indiana, a state of it, passed the world's first sterilization law in 1907, and then 31 states followed suit. State-sanctioned sterilization reached their peak in the 1930s to 40s and continued to rise during the 1950s to 60s in some states. From the 1930s through the 1980s, Japan, Canada, Sweden, Australia, Norway, Finland, Estonia, Slovakia, Switzerland, and Iceland all enacted laws providing for the coerced or forced sterilization of mentally disabled persons, racial minorities, alcoholics, and people with specific illnesses. Countries have applied forced sterilization vigorously and gradually, receiving a positive outcome on population reduction in the past. They had used this method, and some have been super successful. So, if we allow it to some extent at global level for today's rapid population growth, can we expect it would be a good result? Additionally, we find out in one specific case in 2015, the Court of Protection of the United Kingdom ruled that a woman with 6 children and an IQ of 70 should be sterilized for her own safety, because another pregnancy would have been a significantly life-threatening event for her and the fetus. So sometimes the human rights violation might be permitted to protect someone's life.
But if we accept forced sterilization, to what extent do we allow it to be used on our people? Firstly, I would say that this method is being used as a punishment for prisoners, especially racists. There are 3 countries that punish rapists through castration, include Indonesia, the Czech Republic, and Ukraine. This country has passed a law authorizing chemical castration, following a number of high-profile cases of sexual harassment or sexual assault. Now, going back to the early 20th century, One plan called Eugene Programs took place in 32 states of the US. Eugenic program was used as a means of controlling undesirable population, immigrants, people of color, poor people, unmarried mother, the disabled, and the mentally ill. Many sterilization advocates view reproductive surgery as a necessary public health intervention that would protect society from illiterate teens and the social and economic costs of managing degenerate stock. Some prominent scholars continue to support eugenics after the war. In 1963, the Cuba Foundation convened a conference in London titled Man and His Future, in which three prominent biologists and Nobel laureates Hermann Muller, Joshua Littleburg, and Francis Crick raised their voice to support the theory of birth preference. A few countries such as Sweden and the Canadian province of Alberta still maintain large-scale birth preference programs, which include individual production groups with failed mind and many different methods going back to the 1970s. Seems like these reasons for applying forced sterilization make sense in theory and work for a time. However, in reality, eugenics is more considered to violate human rights, reproductive justice, and human nature of reproduction. Moreover, our team believes that there will be more fair, reasonable, and legal solutions and methods to deal with overpopulation, racism, and the quality of genes of the population.